Right, welcome back to the channel. Over the last few weeks, I have done a number of videos looking at Mason Mount, looking at the rumour of him coming to Manchester United. Me and Jade did a video about whether you would want Mason Mount. I've done the case for, I've done the worry with. Now it's time to look at actually where would he fit in tactically. I think the talk and the rumours surrounding Mason Mount lead me to believe that there is a very strong chance Mason Mount will be one of Manchester United's signings this summer. So that being the case, wouldn't be doing my job if I'm not looking into exactly why he is wanted by Erik Ten Hag and potentially where he would fit in. He's not exactly the Jong style progressive passing number 8 that Ten Hag has said to be after over the last 12 months or so. But I do think there is a reason that Ten Hag wants him, and hopefully by the end of this video, I'll have explained why. So I think it's fair to say that United are a club that is known for being a front foot attacking team, and Mount's arrival legitimately could inject a fresh dynamic into the side. He is versatile. He can play central midfield, although with an attacking slant on it. He can definitely play attacking midfield, which is where he definitely suits it in the best. He can play as a forward. He's even snuck out on the wing at times as well, and he offers a lot of flexibility tactically and a steady supply of goals and assists. He's absolutely delivered that throughout his career. And I think his role could be likened to that of a little bit of what Christian Eriksen plays. My only drama is, would we see him collecting the ball as deep as we have seen Christian Eriksen and coming back that deep to dictate? Because that's a question mark for me. But in that Eriksen sort of number 8 role, Mount would really get the opportunity to showcase his ability in possession. He's got excellent ball control. He does have a good range of passing. He's got good vision. He could dictate the tempo of the play from there. And he's got this dynamism about his playing style that enables him to contribute heavily in build-up. He's got key passes. He'll make forward runs. And he would threaten the opposition's defence. And whilst Eriksen is known for that sort of slightly more languid, cerebral sort of playmaking and set-piece expertise, Mount would probably bring a bit of a new dynamic to it. It would be a little bit more gritty in terms of how he would deliver it. He is tenacious. He's got a lot of work rate about him, and his defensive contributions are way higher than I think people expect them to be. And he could probably be a real asset in that sort of role. It's whether or not United will switch to a 3 of him, Bruno, and Casemiro, because that might be a little too attacking. He might also just be another option. He might go with someone a bit more defensive-minded in those games. His defensive metrics are actually huge. And he's a player that loves to press. And they're a massive upgrade on what we've seen with Christian Eriksen, and dwarfs his numbers in almost every single metric that he can look at defensively. And when you look at that alongside the ability to press, which he's got, winning back possession, really high up the pitch, is something that Mason Mount excels at. It really does add an extra dimension to the game and distinguishes from Eriksen in a big way in a defensive sort of sense. And in the number 10 role, where Bruno Fernandes features, Mount can exhibit creativity. He's got a final ball in him. He's got genuine playmaking abilities. He is technical. And like we said, he's got great ball control, and he's really got an incisive pass on him. He can split a defence with a single pass, not a problem. He is potent in that area. And he excels at finding pockets of space himself, not just people in them. He gets into them himself. He unlocks defences with through balls, as well as intelligent off-the-ball movement to create scoring opportunities for others, as well as himself. And that could give Ten Hag a decision to make in terms of the role he could sign him for. And I think it's really interesting that we've seen Bruno Fernandes play deeper a number of times this season alongside Casemiro. And I find that a real fascinating conundrum. That is he priming Bruno Fernandes for somebody else to come in? Or is he priming Bruno Fernandes because he thinks he would excel being on the ball more? And one of the main worries about having Bruno Fernandes that deeper was, does he have the sort of high pass completion you would need to be a tempo dictator and to be someone that can play in that deeper role? You accept, the losses of possession in the final third when he's trying to make things happen, but if you've got 60% pass completion and you're playing central midfield, there's an issue. Now, when we did play Bruno central midfield, his pass completion went way through the roof. So I wonder, is it going to be something where it's a lot more fluid? And could you play Mount and Bruno next to Casemiro as a sort of a 3? Maybe that the closest one drops back and works in, because they both do work hard. I think it's going to be really fascinating to see just how this would sort of figure itself out. And Mount's work rate and willingness to press opposition in the final third does mirror Bruno Fernandes's in a lot of ways. They both have a high level of intensity. They're both actively involved in the defensive aspects of the game like that, and they do contribute to the team's overall shape and pressing triggers. Could we see us move from a 4-2-3-1 to a traditional 4-3-3 with a single pivot? Be very, very interesting to see if that's going to be the case. So if we was to presume that's what Ten Hag is going to do, go with a 4-3-3 base shape, that fluidity could have a ton of variations. You can have a 3-2-5 build-up where Dalot inverts. You can have a 3-2-5 build-up where Luke Shaw inverts. You can have a 2-3-5 where the fullbacks push up onto the next line and the same sort of line as Casemiro's on, and you push your wingers high and wide, and Mount and Bruno could get forward into the sort of underlapping space, the space where we've seen Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne be extremely effective for Manchester City this season. You can go 3-4-3, and you can either have it where one of the fullbacks stays back and you have both of them in central midfield alongside another fullback, or you could have it where Casemiro drops back to become part of the 3. You leave Mount and Bruno in the centre of the pitch where they can dictate and play make, and then you've got your fullbacks either side of them, and then a forward 3 ahead of them. Plenty of options, and within the course of a game, they might roll through every single one of those. You know, I think the options that you've got could be very fascinating. And it's very similar to the sort of setup that we saw at Ajax in the 21-22 season. He had a midfield 3 of Alvarez, Gravenberch and Burgess, and Mazraoui inverted right back, and then Daley Blind would be a left side centre half or left back sort of hybrid kind of player, a little bit like we've seen Luke Shaw doing. Now, in this 11, you would see 3 attackers, 2 attacking midfielders in a 4-1-2-3 or traditional 4-3-3 sort of thing, where they would position themselves behind the opposition midfield line, and the 4 defenders, the pivot, the goalkeeper, try and play through the opposition press. Instead of the attacking midfielders dropping back to receive the ball, fullbacks change their positions dynamically, and they come and receive the ball in behind the pressure of the oppositions. For example, movement's not only vertical, but it's horizontal as well. So they're moving from, imagine the pitch as 5 zones. So you've got wings, you have the centre, and then the half spaces. Just transferring from the half space to the wing or the wing to the half space can be a huge thing when playing out, especially because that little movement alone literally opens up a channel for somebody else to get in there. More often than not, fullback moves inside the pitch to receive the ball in these sorts of situations, and very often is not picked up because the opposition's trying to maintain their shape. In this system, it might look like a 4-3-3 on paper. The role of Bruno is going to require him to occasionally shift into being a bit more of an orthodox midfielder, which I think he could probably do. We had question marks about it, but the times we've seen it, it looked like it was pretty good. As well as having a little bit of a license to roam free, because the structure of this system means that he doesn't have to track back as often. You would assume Luke Shaw is going to be tucked in just at the side there, the left side centre half, ready to cover when the opposition break into that area that Bruno likes to operate in. Mason Mount we could have on the right hand side. He could be then the attacking central midfielder on the right hand side, and Dalot would do a lot of the inverting on that side and covering for if we lose possession in that sort of area. Makes a lot of sense to me. Dalot could potentially look to overlap while someone looks to pop in and screen him, but also provides balance. And you're looking at creating wide triangles on each side. You can have Shaw, Bruno, Rashford down one side. You can have Dalot, Mount, and Anthony on the other side. And I think that gives you a lot of balance. I think it gives you a lot of opportunities. And I think by having the fullbacks kind of invert into the sort of half space a little bit while we're attacking, which we've seen us do numerous times, more at the start of the season, less so towards the end of the season, but I think he's going to go back to that. It really gives the opportunities and the angles for the combination play that we want to see, which makes it very, very difficult. And it's not just about you stand there, you stand there, you stand there. Those three players can just completely flip. The fullback can push up, the winger can come and drop into the sort of half space to the receive, and then the midfielder can go back out to where the fullback was and just provide that balance. And it's very, very difficult for an opposition to pick up when they're doing that sort of rotation. And in possession, the 4-3-3, which I think is the most versatile of the formations, it can look like anything, literally anything in possession. Like Manchester City, where you see at the moment, you've got the 2-3-2-3 or the 3-4-3. Depends where the ball is, depends what the opposition are doing, depends how much movement you require to start unpicking them. I think Ten Hag has got a number of variations in this structure when we're in possession. You see everything from a 3-3-1-3 to a 3-2-5 in the attacking phase. The movement, the position of Bruno, of Casemiro, of Mason, together with the right fullback inverting, you can create so many different shapes. You can allow, for example, in a game where you maybe want a little bit more defensive cover, you can allow Aaron Wan-Bissaka to be the right side. You can have your regular two centre-halves of Varane and Martinez. You can push Luke Shaw up a little bit, maybe into midfield, alongside the other midfielders. So you can go in from right to left. You can have Mount in the right side. You can have Casemiro. You can have Bruno. You can have Shaw. And behind them, you've still got a full three of Wan-Bissaka, who you're not really beating. You've got Varane. You've got Martinez. And then you've got your attacking three to do what the attacking three do. Lovely versatility. It means that United have got the opportunities to create numerical overloads all over the place. And that's what makes Manchester City so good. Is it that they've got an excellent first touch? Yes. Is it because they've got really good work rate and are getting into space for each other's? Yes. But fundamentally, what Manchester City do, which makes them extremely difficult to play against, is they put more people into areas of the pitch than you've got. And they do that by having fluid tactical setups. And it's as simple as that. I think Sir Alex Ferguson might have mentioned it at one point where he said, they will put one more player in midfield than you do at all times just to be able to control that area. And he even said, like, they'll sacrifice a forward to do it. I think he was talking post the 2011 Champions League final. He was talking about Pep. And he was saying they will literally play a 4 and a 6 and a 0 to be able to have more men than you in midfield. And he's correct. And Pep will do that. And the reason he does that is because when you've got very, very good passes of the ball, when you're wanting to keep the ball on the floor, you can knock it around. And I was having a conversation with my neighbour yesterday. Shout out to Wilf. He'll remember this conversation if he's watching, because he does watch. And we was talking about the tactical way the game has developed over the last 50 or 60 years. And I think partially because pitches are now like quite uniformly fantastic, 10 out of 10. Rarely is there a bad pitch, and if there is a bad pitch, it's noteworthy that it's a bad pitch. Most pitches are like a carpet. So a pass along the floor can be trusted. Now, when you're a team, and you see this so much in the Premier League particularly, when you're a team that wants to pass the ball around, if you've got numerical superiority and you're able to play two-touch, you will not get tackled. The only time people get tackled is if they receive the ball when someone was too close to them, which you can account for when there's a 3v2, for example. They take too many touches, or they dribble with the ball. If you keep it intelligent on two-touch, you don't get tackled. It's as simple as that. Think about it. 3 people, 2 people chasing, one goes to the ball, one goes to one of the potential passing options. If the two passing options have split, one of them is free. Pass him the ball. And then he can wait on the ball until one of the others becomes free and someone puts pressure on him having the ball. Then he passes to the one that's free. It is that simple. Now, that doesn't explain chance creation, doesn't explain stopping the opposition scoring. But when it comes to owning possession, the way Pep and Manchester City will do it is put in an extra player somewhere in the pitch that they can find. And it's as simple as that. Work rate, good passing, and intelligent movement will find the free player and you pass to the free player. That's how simple it can be. And that's what I think that Erik Ten Hag is trying to do. I don't think he wants Manchester United to be a counter-attacking side. I think he wants us to dominate the ball. And I think that's what he's trying to build towards. And as we've just touched on it there, in the initial creation of an overload. Now, here's the other thing. When you play out from the back, no matter what the opposition do, you've got more players than them. You shouldn't really ever lose the ball in your own half when playing out. Now, I know that it happens and it happens frequently. But you shouldn't ever lose the ball when playing in your own half. Why? Because it's 11 versus 10. The goalkeeper is not going to come and press anybody from the opposition. So it's always 11 versus 10. So that means someone is always free. It's about whether you can find that person. So going through the thirds from playing out to entering the midfield, there's your overloads. You can bring a forward in because the two centre-halves aren't going to follow him in. One of them might, but both of them won't. And then you're going to have an extra little bit of numerical superiority in the centre of the park. And then it's about when can you create the overload in the final third. And again, to go back to City, because that's the standard at the moment, if you look at what they do with Gundogan and what they do with Kevin De Bruyne, they spread the wingers out right to the touchlines, so you have to go and deal with them. The fullbacks will push right up to give them a little bit of support. That gives them the depth to be able to recycle the ball. If they got on the right-hand side, it doesn't work. They just go back. They go back along the side. They're looking for penetration down the centre. If it doesn't happen, we'll go all the way to the other side. Go all the way to the other side. And then what they're looking for is the right triggers for the right movement for De Bruyne or Gundogan to overload into the centre. Because if you put Haaland, Gundogan, De Bruyne, and then Silva, Grealish along a back four, that is 5 versus 4 numerical superiority. And the problem with that is what will happen is you will drag an opposition's midfield in there with you because they don't want to be overloaded. The first defensive principle is +1. So you want to be +1, which means that if they put 5, you're going to put 6. So if you put in 6 with a traditional back four, that means that your two number 6s have now gone into the back line, which means that you've now got 11 players just in a line and there's no depth. And that's when you start to be able to shoot from distance. So you want to be able to maintain the depth and you don't want to get overloaded. And conversely, when you're in possession, you want to try and overload the opposition. So you've always got someone that you can pass to. And if they don't pick up the runners, you pass to that guy. And if everyone follows into the back line, you should have space in front of it. And it's as simple as that. Create the overloads, go and score. Now, the possibilities for the tactical flexibility in that situation are quite endless. And there's obviously some caveats with that. If you want to play with two advanced eights, as in Mount and Bruno, your build-up has to come from the back line. And that means the whole back line has to be comfortable on the ball. And I think with Martinez and Varane, you're fine there. Luke Shaw, you're absolutely fine there. Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, there is room for improvement, but they're both getting there. But it does mean a goalkeeper that's going to be able to play with his feet and give you that numerical superiority. You've seen the way Brighton do it. It's hell of impressive. Brighton will sit there with two centre-halves straddling the 6-yard box and invite the opposition to come and press them in there. And when they do, they'll just pass it back out the other side, and they've created a gap somewhere in that half that they play to, and then they'll get over the halfway line and they'll get an attack on. It's beautiful to watch. So you do need a goalkeeper that's going to be able to come and do that. We did a video this week on Diogo Costa. He would be more than comfortable doing that, and a massive improvement. A good rotation option for the potential injury that we have with Varane at all times. Lindelof works. Lindelof's an excellent ball player. I think he's had one of the highest pass completions in the Premier League this season. Kim Min-jae will be another good option for that one as well. And there's also some talk of a Timber coming in to play right back, which would really give us the ability to play out across everybody in the back line. So you start to see what Ten Hag's trying to cook here. The ingredients are there. They're not all there, but the ingredients are there for him to be able to go and do this. Obviously, you need someone who's going to put the ball in the back of the net as well, but it all starts from the back. And I think the most exciting part of this is the rotation amongst the players within the setup. I think Shaw, Bruno, Rashford on the left-hand side is fantastic. And I think the same on the right-hand side, it could really work. You know, when Dalot moves ahead of the back line, joins midfield, connects with the forwards, people are just rotating in and slotting into other people's positions. I think it really works. 3-2-5, 2-3-5, it's the same sort of thing, really, but it's a really excellent base to stop counter-attacks. Casemiro and Bruno will have to improve their pass completion percentages. Both of them a little bit giddy at the moment, but I think with an improved back line, if you look at where Liverpool hold the possession really well, it's held amongst their 4 defenders. Not necessarily in their box. They kind of rotate their possession around about the halfway line. That's where their strongest sort of pass connections are. And their most frequent passes are literally just the centre-halves playing to each other and the centre-halves playing to the full-back and the full-backs playing back to the centre-half. That's where they hold their possession. And sometimes it's about being that patient, wait for someone to jump out, oh, there's the gap, and then go for it. But they will have to improve it. But the juice will be worth the squeeze because it'll take Manchester United to that next level and become very, very important when you're playing a European competition where teams aren't as keen to engage in the sort of back and forward thrust that the Premier League is. You have to have a little bit more composure and a little bit more smarts about you because teams definitely play more tactically in Europe. And if we want to be successful in Europe, we have to be able to play by that game. But there you go. That's why I think that Mount does make sense and a little bit on where I think Ten Hag's trying to take this formation and his tactics as well. Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.